The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hey everyone, this is Rose Daly, the City Sustainability Coordinator of Sun Prairie, and you're listening to the Sustainable Sun Prairie Podcast, the show that aspires to educate, empower, and engage our listeners in all aspects of sustainability. Whether you are a seasoned sustainability enthusiast or just beginning your sustainability journey, each episode will have something new and exciting for everyone. Let's begin the conversation for a greener community. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Have you ever picked up a product claiming to be eco-friendly only to wonder if that green label was just a marketing gimmick? Well, you're not alone. In fact, a recent study found that nearly 60% of sustainability claims made by companies lack substantial proof. In today's episode, we're diving deep into the deceptive world of greenwashing. We'll unravel how companies use clever but misleading tactics to appear environmentally friendly while their actual impact remains questionable. Join us as we explore eye-opening examples from major brands such as Target, Shein, and McDonald's, uncover the truth behind green claims, and arm yourself with the knowledge to see through the greenwash and make genuinely sustainable choices. Joining me here today is Kim Mintrone, a fellow sustainability enthusiast and low-impact consumer. Welcome, Kim. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. Thanks so much.
Can you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Yeah, so my name's Kim Mintrone, and my husband and I have been living here in Sun Prairie for just over 2 years now. Professionally, I work remotely for a disability service association based in Oregon State. I plan events and coordinate legislative efforts on behalf of our membership. And then locally, I've been really grateful to be appointed to the Sustainability Committee for Sun Prairie, as well as the Plan Commission Sustainability Rep.
Yes, we are grateful for all of the services you're providing to the city through the different commission and committees you're on. So I'm super excited for our discussion today because I've personally fallen victim to greenwashing, probably like most people listening to this. I'm sure you have as well. But I really wanted to record this episode today so that we can make sure our listeners are equipped with the knowledge they need to avoid these consumer traps. So I think a good place to start is just by defining greenwashing. Greenwashing is one of those terms such as wish cycling and net zero where people have probably heard of it before, but they may not know its exact definition. So could you define greenwashing for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So greenwashing is essentially where a company is manipulating you to think that they're going the extra mile or have a truly sustainable product, where in reality there's like no actual data to back that up and no actual actions that are sort of backing up that claim or that advertisement.
Yeah, it really is a manipulation of these poor, like innocent consumers. It's very frustrating to me. I think before we dive deeper into greenwashing, we can make a comparison to the health world to help our listeners understand this concept. So do you remember back in the day when the Coca-Cola Clear product was released?
Yeah, I didn't actually remember this, but I think it's a really, really great testament to to the story here.
Right. So essentially, Coca-Cola Clear is a Coke product that is just as unhealthy as traditional Coke, but it gives the appearance of being healthier and more refreshing because of its resemblance to water. So it's a clear product. You can see through it, right? And I was digging deeper into Coca-Cola Clear, and I found that Coca-Cola actually conducted extensive research, and they identified a growing demand for lighter, clearer beverages perceived as healthier and more refreshing. Now, the keyword here is perceived. Yep. So Coca-Cola essentially took advantage of this research finding, and they made this clear product to appeal to those consumers who had more of a healthy lens when they were going to the grocery store. And that frustrates me because this product is just as unhealthy as Coca-Cola. It's loaded with sugar, but they were able to bring in more consumers because they were appealing to that healthier side.
Yeah, it's a wild story, and I think this points as just one example of how companies will take that marketing data or what the latest trend is and then capitalize on it in a, again, manipulatory way.
Yes. So I'm just curious to know, was there a specific moment in your life when you first became aware of greenwashing?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a specific moment, but around 5 years ago when my husband and I first started our sort of like low waste, eco-friendly journey, we started being more intentional with our purchases. And I became very acutely aware of just how much noise there was in like that product space, and with online shopping or just on the shelves. And it made me realize that I needed to have my guard up and actually do a lot more research if I was going to be like truly making, I guess, more informed and better for the environment purchases.
Noise is a good word to use around this, because I feel like these companies essentially, they throw so many different labels at you, and we'll get into this more, but there's a lot of noise, and you think you're buying a sustainable product, but it actually might not be.
Yeah.
We had a similar experience when I first started going on my journey of purchasing sustainable products. So I remember my very first purchase of sustainable products. I ordered from Amazon. I got a shampoo bar, dental floss that was made out of bamboo, a compostable phone case, and a safety razor. And I was so excited to get these products. I was like, yes, I'm going to start reducing my impact on the earth. But then when they actually arrived, I was very skeptical of them. And that's because of the packaging. So my shampoo bar came in a cardboard box, which is why I bought it. But the bar itself was wrapped in plastic. And I was like, how is this a sustainable product? I bought it to avoid plastic, and now it's wrapped in plastic. And then my compostable phone case, it claims that it can be composted in 3 to 6 months, which is what I wanted to do, to be able to compost it at the end of its life. But it didn't specify if it was backyard composting or commercial composting. And we can get more into that later. But that's when I first was like, okay, wait, I can't trust these companies necessarily. I have to keep an eye out for sustainable claims and do some research to see if they're true.
Yeah, absolutely. And your story about the shampoo bar, that's just such a great example. And I'm sure we're going to chat more about packaging and all of that. But yeah, just the excessive and unnecessary packaging is definitely a piece of this picture.
It is so frustrating. Speaking of frustration, I think we should move into the motivation behind greenwashing. To us as consumers, greenwashing often leaves us feeling frustrated and confused. So let's, take a step back and look at why companies greenwash. So the first reason why companies will often greenwash is to improve their reputation. So these companies engage in greenwashing to build or enhance their reputation as responsible corporate citizens. A positive environmental image can improve brand loyalty and attract positive media coverage. And then another reason why these companies greenwash, and I think one of the biggest reasons, is to appeal to environmentally aware customers, which allows them to gain a larger share of the consumer base. So right now there are a lot of consumers that are becoming environmentally conscious, and companies are seeing this as a significant marketing opportunity, or like you said, a manipulation they can take advantage of. So by presenting themselves as sustainable, companies hope to attract and retain customers who prioritize eco-friendly practices, which I don't like this. They're definitely doing this to make a profit, and not actually doing much to be sustainable. So those are two reasons I found for greenwashing, but what did you come across in your research?
Yeah, a couple more rows. So companies also avoid making actual changes. So like these genuine sustainability efforts can be costly and complex, and we'll get into that with like the different certifications that can come across with the brand. But greenwashing allows companies to appear environmentally responsible without actually like investing in that sort of change. Or like altering supply chains, adopting new technologies, all the different ways that a company can actually like put their money where their mouth is for these claims.
And I get that. It can be so expensive for companies to make that shift. But once you make that shift, like you'll actually retain these eco-friendly consumers, and you'll be set to go for when the government starts enforcing these environmental regulations.
Yeah, and then another one, just gaining an unfair advantage. So in crowded markets, presenting products or services as green, all these different tactics, it can differentiate a brand from its competitors, and even if the environmental pieces are, I guess, overstated or not fully backed up.
Right. So these are the reasons why companies greenwash. I was digging more into this, and I was wondering if greenwashing is something that like secretly happens. Maybe the marketing team is like, hush hush, like let's try to greenwash to improve our numbers for this quarter or whatever. Or if it's kind of like a big company effort. Like I was looking into to see who's actually involved in these greenwashing decisions. So I found a 2022 survey of almost 1,500 CEOs and C-suite leaders. And it found that 80% believe their companies are doing a great job on environmental sustainability, but 58% of them also admitted their companies greenwashed, and 2/3 questioned whether their efforts were genuine. So I tried to put myself in the shoes of the CEOs, and I'm like, okay, typically CEOs are very much broader scope, broader picture. They don't know the details of what's going on. So are they themselves skeptical of like their marketing team's efforts? Because that's bad in my opinion. Or is someone telling the CEO the details of what they're doing? That's what I'm just curious about. But essentially what we find is that greenwashing can impact consumer trust of brands, right, on the other side of things. And a 2021 survey of more than 2,000 U.S. consumers reported that 88% of Gen Zers express distrust in brands' environmental claims. And only 34% of consumers trust the brands they purchase from. And I think you and I fall in the 88%. I'm not a Gen Zer, I'm a little older than that, but I'm very skeptical and I only trust the brands I've done extensive research on. Do you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I second that. And as a millennial, I feel like I have a general distrust as well, but I have to like really build that and to understand like, oh, I should have my guard up more. And so it's nice to see that Gen Z has their guard up already and they're making more informed purchases.
Exactly, because I feel like greenwashing, like we weren't born, back in the day, and greenwashing was already a thing. I feel like it became more of a thing like in the 2010s when there was really a bigger push in America for eco-friendliness.
Sure, yeah.
So there are 3 main sectors that are most likely to greenwash. Do you want to guess what at least one of those would be?
Oh, 3 main sectors. Oh, okay. I mean, definitely I would say like cleaning products, like things that are, like for the house, like house supplies, things like that.
Yeah.
That's one that I think of.
That's a really good guess because I feel like that's where we most often see the greenwashing with household products. But actually, the sectors are a lot bigger. So the 3 sectors that are most likely to greenwash is the fashion industry. Oh, yeah. And we have a lot to say on that later on. We've done a lot of research. The meat industry, which is, I feel like all the time we go to the store and we see like, oh, this is organic beef or this is pasture-raised beef. We see all those claims and then we question if they're true. And then the third one, which I found quite interesting, is the auto industry.
Oh, interesting.
Right. I wouldn't really think of that because I feel like we don't really see certifications on vehicles. Mm-hmm. But, they could lie about how fuel efficient their vehicle is, and I would never be able to know that, right?
Yeah.
So those are the 3 main sectors. We're going to touch on mostly the meat and fashion sectors in this episode, not so much auto industry. So companies use a variety of strategies to greenwash their products. Some are quite sneaky, but others are pretty easy to identify. So I think we should start by sharing some of the top ways that companies greenwash so we know what to look out for.
Yeah, I would say the big one, and it's sort of the obvious one as you're browsing aisles at the store, is appearance. So if you're looking for things that appear green, like actually the color green for starters, or like a picture of the earth, or like just the packaging, the pictures, the earth, the sky, all of those sorts of things, or a cardboard as like the packaging itself rather than plastic. Like those are the things that draw us in and kind of make it more noticeable, whether we know it's backed by great practices or not, it's still drawing you in as like, oh, this is a green product. Like, and if that's how you're shopping with that intent, you're going to be drawn to that product first.
Okay. Yeah, because like packaging is the only thing we're going to see. We won't actually know if the product's sustainable. But I can totally relate to this. I feel like every time I go down the laundry detergent aisle or the dish soap aisle, I'll see all the super colorful bottles, like the red, the blues, the yellows. And then I'll see, for example, like a nice green looking bottle with like you said, a picture of the earth. Or for dish soap, the clear dish soap with like a little eco-friendly label on it. And I'm like,
the duck or something.
The duck, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this must be a sustainable product because it looks different from the more colorful, vibrant one. Another strategy that these companies use to greenwash is they'll put certain labels on their products. So if you have a product in front of you right now, maybe it's a cleaning product, a household product, a food item, look at the back of it and see if there's any labels on it. Are there any, specific words on it, such as eco-friendly or compostable or biodegradable, cruelty-free? These are words that we'll see on a lot of different packages. But the truth is, these vague statements don't hold any meaning. They're not regulated. The word eco-friendly is not regulated. We don't actually know what that means when that's on a product. It could mean, honestly, 100 different things. Same with compostable. You can't just put compostable on a product, right? So there's no way for us to verify these claims. In addition to that, companies can also use specific little labels. So these are little pictures or little like graphics that show maybe a bunny and it says cruelty-free or not tested on animals. However, there are some third-party verified labels and there's some that are not. So again, companies can use this as a way to manipulate you as a consumer into buying their product because they have these claims on there which may or may not be true. I did want to share one example related to compostable.
Yeah.
So Are you familiar with Greenbox, the local composting company here?
Yeah.
I had talked to our composter before, Greenbox, and I had asked them, like, hey, like, obviously they take food waste, and they also can take compostable products. And I had asked them, if I have a product in my home that says compostable, for example, I have a cardboard chapstick, it's like in a cardboard tube, or I have my bamboo dental floss, those all say compostable on them. And I asked our composter, can you take these products? And they said, we cannot take them unless they have a BPI, which is Biodegradable Products Institute, certification on them. So this is a third-party company that certifies products as compostable. And Greenbox, they have a very special process they use to break down their compostable materials. And BPI certified products will break down in their process. But any other random product that just says compostable on it, they can't guarantee that that meets the standards of BPI and that it'll actually break down in their system.
Right.
So that kind of shows from a larger perspective why we can't just trust these labels that say compostable, biodegradable, plant-based, because it could mean a variety of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to touch on this a little bit later too, I think, but to that point as well, it's also the follow through of actually doing that. Because also if you see something, all these like buzzwords, compostable, biodegradable, whatever it is, like you kind of have to check yourself a little bit and think, am I actually going to follow through? Can I actually follow through with like what this product's end life goal actually is? Like if you're not near a recycling facility, if you don't have a commercial composting facility near you, you may be purchasing it with the intent of like it being more eco-friendly, but if it's ultimately going to end up in the landfill, again, I don't want to put blame on the consumer. These companies are often more the ones who are end up putting us in bad places, but it does require that follow-through piece.
That's so true. It's really a joint effort. Like if a company's going to spend the money to change their supply chain to make their products compostable or whatever it might be, then I think we should then take on the responsibility of, like you said, properly disposing of it. That's a really, really great point. All right, so we have these vague labels, language that, like you said, is a buzzword and doesn't have any meaning behind it. But let's talk about some of those actual third-party verified labels that you can look for that have been verified and do have meaning behind them.
Yeah.
So do you want to actually start by sharing some that you came across?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, one of the ones that you already mentioned with Greenbox is BPI certification. I just did a little bit of research on these because kind of generally, full disclosure, I did not know the details behind these. I kind of just was like, I know these are trusted ones, but I don't know like who's backing them, who's certifying them, what are they, all of that. So forgive my short and bite-sized little tidbits from each of these. But BPI, yeah, so it's North America only, which I just found interesting because a lot of these recognizing bodies also do things internationally. So that's just something of note. And then, they're covering commercial composting. So BPI is a great logo to look for if you know that you have access to a commercial composting area. And so again, not making the mistake of like throwing it in your backyard compost because it's likely not going to biodegrade or compost. And then, again, like knowing what you have in your community and what that end life of that product is going to be. So BPI, again, commercial composting, and I found it fascinating that it's North America only. I don't know the details behind that.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I wonder if like Europe has a different process for composting, or they if they use different systems. That's something we could do a whole episode on probably.
Sure. Yeah, and then another one, Green Seal. This one was a new one for me as well. Which it looks like the majority of those products with Green Seal end up being like cleaning products, commercial cleaning products, school, things that you might find in schools or offices, things like that. I found it interesting that they're a partner of the Amazon Climate Pledge Friendly Badge.
Ooh,
which
okay.
I don't know much about that. But when I think of it, and it's hard to think of sustainability when you think of Amazon broadly, but...
Wait, just to clarify, is this Amazon the company or like Amazon Rainforest?
Amazon the company.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So that was just an interesting tidbit I found. And I was looking into the criteria for like what makes that product ultimately get that green seal,
right? And
I'm not trying to say like this or this isn't as important as the other thing, but I saw this massive list under human health because that's definitely their focus is, and again, cleaning products, obviously if your product's going to be in a school or what have you, like you want it to be safe for children, so I get why that list is like it was so much longer. But on the other side of like like climate friendly or all the different other criteria, those lists were much shorter. I just found that interesting.
That is very
Big
interesting.
focus on human health over the other pieces.
Okay. I will say the city of Sun Prairie, we use Green Seal certified cleaning products for our facilities. So yeah, I'm curious to know which category those fall under though.
Yeah, and then another couple, non-GMO. So I'm sure there's another whole podcast on GMO, organic, all the sorts of things that go with our food. But non-GMO as a certification is often used for like animal feed and auto fuel. Also, I didn't know that.
Ooh, okay.
Otherwise, like as far as in our food, the non-GMO like label kind of looks out for like the things that are processed, like via corn or soy or potato, canola, things like that. And so what we see as like the GMO foods, are like the things that are on, like, you know, unfortunately on the labels of all your food items often. But yeah, that was just an interesting one. So that's looking more closely at the animal feed and auto fuel.
Okay, that's super interesting. Yeah.
That's often where the GMO, the genetically modified food ends up.
Okay.
And then to kind of like piggyback on that, so there's the big one, USDA organic. Like a lot of people, again, that's sort of a buzzword, but also it's like a meaningful way to try to better source your food. And I found it interesting that USDA organic doesn't necessarily address the non-GMO concern. And I know we're not going into a food podcast here, but I just found that interesting because when you think of, I guess, a non-GMO food, I guess you'd kind of almost hand in hand think that that's also organic, certified organic. But that's just for any foodies out there who are looking out for organic products. I suppose that's a piece that you may want to like just kind of check the certifications and see if it's also non-GMO.
Right. Okay, that's super interesting. And just to clarify to our listeners, these products, they don't just need to have the words non-GMO or organic.
Right.
They need to have the words plus the graphic, and it's like a very specific graphic. We'll put a list in the show notes where you can see the actual images, but be on the lookout for that because, again, don't fall into the trap of something saying organic but not being certified through the USDA.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. And something I was thinking about this earlier with like the USDA organic seal or icon, whatever it is you're seeing on there. As I was thinking broadly about like searching for sustainable products, you know, if you're on the hunt for in your grocery shopping and you're looking for organic foods, like that's the frame of reference that you're looking for when you're shopping to be whatever for your family, for yourself. Like you're gonna look for that organic seal, like that's something that matters to you, and that's a way of being like, oh yes, someone else has made these, like has looked at this company, has determined that yes, it meets these criteria. So like you have more trust in that organic USDA organic seal. And so there's, you know, as we're talking about all these other brand certifications, I guess I kind of want to like just expand that. So if you've never looked for those other seals for other products, like you can kind of think of it and as you do with like the USDA organic symbol of like, this is something that a third party likely has done the research on and makes it a little more trustworthy.
Exactly. And it saves us as the consumer so much time.
Yes.
We don't have to research. We can see that label. We can say we trust this, and we can just buy the product and feel good about it.
Yeah. And then I had one other one, and not a whole lot of detail on it right now, but Energy Star, which is like home appliance often, or like like AC units, heating, like things like that, these like larger units. That's an interesting one, and there's a lot going on there. But ultimately, like the EPA is a certifying body, which I found interesting. So the Environmental Protection Agency is the one kind of looking at the who qualifies and who doesn't qualify after a year or two. That was just a side note. It is fascinating to see, all of these qualifying bodies, these certifications. They also have to do these follow-ups. They have to make sure that the company is still doing that work, or they're not like laxing on anything, and the people can qualify out if they're not living up to that standard, which I think
that's really good.
Some of these seals are like, we actually had to disqualify like 1,500 of our companies.
1,500?
Like, yeah, Energy Star I think was the one that said that they like, when they did follow-ups, they had to disqualify. It was 1,500. It might be 1,500 products. I don't want to misspeak, but it was
Okay.
on the
But
Energy
it's
Star
a
website.
big amount.
Yeah, it was a substantial amount. And I'm glad that they noted that like, hey, we did our research, and they're not.
Oh my gosh. I bet this would be another way to greenwash. A company like pays for the certification, they make sure they meet everything up front, but then they just probably slack off on everything, but then try to keep the certification. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness they're doing follow-ups. I never would have even thought
Yeah.
of that. So I have a couple of third-party verified labels I wanted to share that you can look for at the store.
Yeah.
So the first is the Leaping Bunny certification. So this is a third-party certification for cruelty-free products, and there's a little outline of a bunny that you can look for, and it says Leaping Bunny under it, and that can be on a lot of beauty product brands. So some brand examples that actually have this certification are Burt's Bees and 7th Generation. So you will see that little bunny on the back. But what makes me very angry is there are so many companies that just put like a slightly different drawing of a bunny on the back of their package, and below it they write cruelty-free or not tested on animals. And if you don't remember exactly what that bunny looks like for Leaping Bunny, you might buy that product thinking it wasn't tested on animals, but that hasn't been verified by a third party. So that's super frustrating to me. We will put the actual picture of Leaping Bunny in the show notes so you can reference that. But yeah, look for that if you're looking for more of those cruelty-free products. Another one is if you're buying paper products. This is anything from paper for your printer at home or at work to like paper plates, paper cups, etc. But if you want to ensure that your paper for that product is coming from a sustainably managed forest, you can look for an FSC or SFI certification. So FSC is Forest Stewardship Council, and SFI is Sustainable Forestry Initiative. So if you look for these, you'll know that that paper product has been third-party verified. So look for that as well. And then just one more I want to bring up is fair trade. So if you are looking for maybe coffee or chocolate or cocoa that's coming from a fair trade farm in a different country, you can look for the Fair Trade America or Fair Trade International certification. These are third-party verified. The actual little symbol is going to be the silhouette of a little person, and it's blue and green as the background, and it's a little rectangle. So if you look for that, that's the Fair Trade America and International label. There's also another one that's just for the USA, and that one's too difficult to describe, but it's like green and black, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. So if you want to guarantee your product is fair trade, you can look for that. And a brand that does have the certification is Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which is the best because I am obsessed with their ice cream, and it's good to know that the chocolate in their ice cream comes from fair trade farms.
Absolutely.
So that's great. So we just shared some examples of some third-party verified labels to look for. But I just want to share one funny thing, Kim. When I was doing this research, like I was researching like third-party verified labels or environmental labels, blah, blah, blah. You know how Google has like targeted ads or like sponsored websites that come up? One of the first ones that popped up was a company that creates environmentally friendly labels at no extra cost. And it says, customize your labels and position your brand as a leader in environmental responsibility. There are entire companies profiting off of other companies to give them fake environmental labels. Like, what is going on?
That is bizarre and unfortunately not so surprising.
I know. And you know what the worst part is? I bet there's some maybe smaller businesses who think that this company can give them a legit third-party verified label, and then they, unbeknownst to them, are then greenwashing their customers.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens. Maybe not as much as actual greenwashing, but like that is concerning to me. So I did not like seeing the Google ad suggestion for that company.
Yeah, that's a good point with the small businesses because, you know, a lot of these, I mean, if not all of them, you know, have an upfront cost for the business. So the business has to first decide that they're going to invest in this seal of approval for whatever the seal is. And then, you know, and then there's all the other legwork of like having investigators come out to their site, Refill's facility, all the things. But like, yes, an upfront cost plus all of that extra cost. Like it does show that a company is, you know, like putting their money where their mouth is. And then, yeah, so for a company like that, who's going to kind of like prey on on that system, some smaller brand who maybe doesn't have as much money to invest in that is going to get a false certification or some false advertising. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
No, that's so true. And I often I wonder if a company has one of these fake labels, what if like you as the consumer call the company and you're like, hey, where'd this label come from? And they can say, oh, it came from a third party.
Oh my gosh.
They could totally say that,
absolutely.
but then it wouldn't mean anything, but the consumer might not know that. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting mad now.
I didn't, this has opened up a whole new.
It really did. I don't want to throw a wrench into this, but I want to add a complexity layer. So even though some products have these third-party verified labels, sometimes you still have to be a little bit skeptical. Let me give you an example. So Target recently came out with fair trade certified jeans, okay? Sounds great, right? Because like we said, fashion is one of the biggest sectors that greenwashes. So Target has gone above and beyond to provide these. Now, if you look at the actual tag in the jeans, it has the Fair Trade USA logo on it. Like the third-party verified certification is on the tag of the jeans. So that you probably think this is a fair trade pair of jeans. Awesome. But the caveat is this only certifies the factory where the garments are sewn. It doesn't certify any other part of the fashion process, and we do have a whole episode on fast fashion where we walk through all the different factories our garments go to before they make it to the store shelves. So while this certification is for the factory where the garments are sewn, it's not for the farm where the cotton is grown, and the factory where it's dyed, and then where it's woven into strands. And that's often where the environmental and labor abuse occurs, is not at that final factory, at the other ones down the chain. So I have to say, Target isn't actually making a sustainable, truly fair trade product, but they are probably able to pull the wool over many people's eyes, not to make a like material reference here. But that is one thing to look out for. And I would just say, like, as a pro tip, when you go shopping, just keep a list on your phone of those third-party verified labels, like the actual picture of them, not just the words. And you can just reference that as you're shopping. And that's a good place to start.
I feel like there should be an app for that. Maybe there is an app for that.
Maybe there is. I would hope so. That'd be, like, I would pay for that app. It would be so worth it.
Another piece of this, the sneaky ways that companies are greenwashing, is recyclability. So that would, that can be incorrectly or falsely labeling a product as recyclable. First example that comes to mind would be like shampoo bottles, which may contain a recycling symbol. Great, that can be recycled likely at your local, like in your bin or local facility. But the pump cap or the pump itself, and maybe the cap, like there's like little caveats. One of those can't be recycled. Only the bottle can. Only if you cut off the label and then trash the label. Like there's all these other little pieces to recyclability. And then if you incorrectly recycle that, then the contamination of the waste stream becomes your fault, not the company's. And so that poor design, that lack of clarity from the company is ultimately gonna cause a disruption in your local recycling facility. And that sounds like it can be a big deal if you've seen like pictures of like plastic being like taken out of jams at a recycling center. Like these things do actually cause disruption at your local waste and composting recycling facilities.
I'm often very furious about like the soap bottles with the pump caps and there's no clear label saying you can't recycle the pump cap. I have seen some products getting better. They have 2 recycling symbols. For example, we just bought a little canister of Pringles, and there's 2 symbols. One says the plastic cap is recyclable. The canister is not, because it's like plastic and cardboard together. So I was happy to see that, but I do think that's only a small percentage of products that are actually putting those like different, like which parts are actually recyclable.
Right. Yeah, and another thing I didn't think about this until now, but you'll often see the like it's like really tiny print, like check with your local recycling company or like recycling facility, like not recycled in all areas. And it's just funny to me because it's like now again they're putting all of this responsibility on the consumer. Like, we made this product that's super recyclable, that's awesome, but if you don't read the fine print, then like it's either going to be trash because you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with it, or it's going to be improperly recycled or like not recycled at all. So it's kind of frustrating in that way as well, which I guess to plug for like your Sun Prairie's local recycling, if you don't, you can, I believe probably on the Sun Prairie like city website, you can print off or see on a website all the things that can be recycled curbside. If you need a reminder, print that out, have that on your fridge, your recycling, like whatever, just those reminders. And also there's the I'm not sure if it's the only city one, so I'm not sure if I can say this, but Pelletier has like their own app, and you can, you know, get reminders, and it says like what you can and can't recycle, and you can ask very specific questions. Can I recycle a toaster? Can I throw out a toaster? Whatever it is, like that, you know, to help you be a more informed consumer and not accidentally, you know, contaminate a waste stream.
Yeah, that's so true. I think one example related to that is Colgate toothpaste. All of their toothpaste bottles now will have a recycling symbol, but I believe in the fine print it says not recycled everywhere, check with your curbside. But again, the average consumer spends 0.5 seconds looking at the back before they choose to put it in the garbage or the recycling. They might not see the fine print. Luckily, City of Sun Prairie, we do offer a collection bin for your dental products, so toothpaste tubes, toothbrushes, floss containers. Any brand will accept them, and we actually ship them out to a specialized company to be recycled. That's a free program you can take advantage of. But majority of cities don't have this program. So again, it's a way that we're being tricked into buying these products.
Yeah, so one other thing as far as recycling programs that don't have a lot of, I guess, teeth to it. So like H&M, the clothing brand, has a recycling program where only like 0.1% of that clothing collected is actually recycled. Like, it's like they have a program that's so exciting, like totally gonna like spend my money there, love recycling. And then like reading the fine print, actually doing the digging on the website, those sorts of things. It's like, oh, actually this isn't really an effective like program. It's just again another greenwashing tactic of like, come spend your money here, we have these great recycling programs, so your stuff is gonna get, you know, utilized many more times. Not exactly the case.
That's infuriating. And if I recall, I haven't been to H&M in a long time, but if I recall, if you do put clothes in their recycling bins, they give you like a coupon for their store, right?
Yeah, I guess we could talk about the whole like green flag, beige flag, red flag, and that's one of those, oh, I'm gonna get like all this extra spend money for recycling, or like, you know, buying a product, whatever it is.
Right,
so, it's
so you
like,
can buy more fast fashion.
It's more, it's just you're buying more of their product, which again, I get that that's a company's goal. They have to they have the business plan, but
right,
it's not in line with the sustainability goal.
Right, at least try to make sure more than 0.1% of your clothes are recycled, please. Like, you could do better than that.
For sure.
So another strategy companies are using is they make a big deal about one small sustainable attribute. But you actually have to look at the company's behavior as a whole. So let me give you an example. In 2019, McDonald's switched to recyclable straws. Now, I don't actually remember this, so I don't know which part of the US this happened in, or maybe it was in Europe, I'm not sure. But so basically they're like, we have recyclable straws now. That might draw in those eco-conscious consumers. But the truth is, McDonald's is still one of the world's largest restaurant chains serving animal products from factory farms. So are they really making a difference on their environmental footprint by providing these recyclable straws? Probably not. And the funny thing is, it turns out the straws weren't actually recyclable either. I don't know if McDonald's just didn't realize that, but like, it's like they just tried and just completely failed at like trying to appeal to the eco-consumers. So again, look at the company as a whole to see if these actions are legit, or if it's just a way to like distract and pull you in.
Yeah, that's funny that, I mean, funny but not funny that the straws actually weren't recyclable. But even if a company, like a restaurant or a chain, whatever it is, has like a recyclable cup or something like that they want you to recycle, I found that also has been a hard thing to like, honestly, to watch. I was in customer services for a while too, and so I saw this from that end. But like having a recycling bin and a trash can, and like without, I guess, helping inform your customers, like you're gonna end up with, again, contaminated waste streams. Like so often the recycling bin just had nothing but trash in it, and like, you know, there was no, like, unless you had someone either standing next to that bin and being like, actually that can go here, like right. Or someone in the back willing to pull stuff out of a trash can or a recycling bin, then like, even though a company is like, yeah, like we're doing the thing, we're putting an extra effort in to recycle X amount of our products, like, again, it's that trick of like, we're actually putting it on the consumer to like take responsibility of it, and we're not adding extra like signage or things like that. We're relying on the consumer to be fully informed and know exactly how to recycle their products, which there's a lot to it. And so it can get tricky, and it ends up being, you know, the consumer's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, another example, and not to go down the whole fast fashion lane again, I know there was a whole podcast on it, but like Shein, or Shein actually, I think is how you're supposed to say it.
I honestly don't know how to say it.
I really don't know, but so a company like Shein, where if you don't know of that particular brand, it's like this huge, huge, primarily women's fashion brand. And there's, you can get all the things for like $10 or less, and they're coming out with hundreds and hundreds of new products every day or every week, whatever their business model is. There's a ton of stuff coming out all the time. And so if you see a claim of like recycled materials being used, or all these different like eco-friendly, again, these buzzwords, these things on like this product is this, and so it's a more eco-friendly product. It's a small action. The company's making a big deal out of this claim, when in reality, if you just take 1 foot back and like see this giant business model, that is nothing about it is eco-friendly, nothing about it is sustainable, and it's ultimately like they're just trying another tactic to get more people to buy their stuff.
Yeah. Now, not to like go down the fast fashion track, but I do have one example to share.
Yeah.
Going back to Target. Target like has a lot of greenwashing examples. So Target has a clothing line that is plastic free, or I'm forgetting exactly what it is, but also made out of recycled materials. So last year I saw these denim shorts at Target that claimed to be made from recycled materials. So I ended up buying them, mostly because I was about to go on vacation. I needed a pair of shorts. I didn't have any, but I bought them. And then I brought them home, and I was really looking at them because I was like, are these actually made out of recycled plastic? And what I found is when you initially flip the shorts inside out, there's pockets on the shorts that have this super like big design on it. And if you read the design, it shows like pictures of plastic bottles and recycling symbols. And it says pocketing contains 65% reprieve polyester fiber. Now reprieve means recycled. The keyword here is pocketing. So probably only a small percentage of the actual shorts as a whole is pocketing material, like pocketing lining. Yeah. And that's made out of 65% recycled materials. But then if you read the actual tag, it says 78% cotton, 20% recycled cotton, and 2% spandex. So I feel like that's greenwashing in itself. Yeah. Where like it's very misleading when you look at the actual shorts. So again, this makes the shorts look very green, but the truth is that only 20% is made out of recycled material, and Target is a fast fashion store. They of course sell other items too, but they have a lot of new clothing lines coming out all the time. But they're trying really hard to appeal to these environmentally minded consumers. Yeah. All right. I'm sure we could talk about fast fashion all day, but I think we should move into the fifth strategy companies use, which is promoting products through influencers. So in today's age, we have a lot of people on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and a lot of us follow influencers, and we tend to trust what influencers say, right? Because that's their job. They influence us to buy things or like change our lifestyles. And companies are actually using influencers to promote products as green, even if they're not. This company, they just have the main goal of getting their products in front of as many people as possible, and they can use the popular influencers as the spokesperson. Mm-hmm. Now, the influencer gets paid for the promotion, so they can make money, and they might say whatever the company tells them to say so they can get paid. It may not be quite an honest review or honest clarification of the product. So that's a little suspicious. And I do have one example to share. So Kourtney Kardashian, she paints herself as an environmentally conscious and health-focused individual, okay? And she became the brand ambassador for a company called Boohoo. It is a UK fast fashion company, okay? And they partnered with her because they were embarking on a, air quotes, sustainability journey, and they wanted her to be the face of that. So they're claiming that they're making a clothing line from recycled fibers and materials, but at the same time, they're uploading 700 new items to their website every week. So again, they're like, Shein, are they actually a sustainable company? Yeah. No, but they're using Kourtney Kardashian to make them seem like they're more sustainable than they are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about all the different ways, like labels and colors, appearance, like pulls people in, but we failed to recognize there's all these other ways, all these marketing tactics, they're constantly being tried to, sold something. And so if you're following various influencers, anything on Instagram, Facebook, what have you, you're going to come across people who you idolize for one reason or another, good singer, cool actor, whatever, pop star, etc. And so, I think it's definitely a sneaky way of getting more buy-in from maybe the skeptical Gen Zers, as we mentioned, or the
Yeah.
millennials, or whatever demographic you are. And on the flip side of this, as far as greenwashing, I think are like finding those people who really are, walking the walk. I think of, and I'm a Harry Potter nerd, so this is my example of Bonnie Wright, who played Ginny in the Harry Potter series. She's written a book called Go Gently. She's very like eco-conscious and does a lot of work in that space, actually, like, advocating and all these other events, etc. And so, following her, if I see that she's recommending a product or is using a product, and it's not like #ad, I'm like more likely to trust that product, because I'm like, this person has written a book and is living a life with like very clear examples of like following through with practices that I like value. And so like, oh, you bought this, I don't know, whatever, literally any product, and it's not an ad. I'm like, okay, if I never need that product, I'm probably going to consider that brand. But also, am I being mindful, am I going to go and just buy this right now because my favorite celebrity just bought it? That's also another, like, if you feel yourself being like, I need to buy that product now so I can be like Kourtney Kardashian, that's, I guess, a red flag for your own consumer habits.
Right. And, like you said, we don't want to put down all influencers. There are
absolutely.
some who, like, they try so hard to only accept brand deals with products that only truly align with their values.
Sure.
And I have so much respect for those influencers, because they will turn down thousands of dollars to not lie to their followers,
absolutely.
which I love and respect that. So I think, be skeptical. But also, if you know that influencer is really trustworthy, you can do a little research on them, research the product yourself, just to triple check before you buy it.
Yeah, I think the last one on our list for sneaky ways, which I'm sure there are a ton more, but just sort of the 6 that we kind of focused on, is the refillability piece that's advertised. And that's sort of a double-edged sword there. Is like it can be an opportunity to be sustainable, but it also can be an opportunity to lure you into spending more money and like produce more waste. And so it's kind of, again, with all of this, you kind of just have to look a little bit deeper and think a little bit more about what you're buying and look at the packaging. And one of the things I thought about, and there's a million different refill products nowadays, like Mrs. Meyer's, I believe, is the soap brand or cleaning product brand, where you buy a spray bottle for household cleaner, or you buy a dish soap or something like that, and then rather than buying a new spray bottle or a new just dish soap with a pump, you're going to go out and buy a larger bottle that still has a cap, but it doesn't have the pump piece.
Right.
So something like that, where it's like, okay, I'm buying a second thing here. So yes, I'm producing more waste. I'm buying something else, and to loop back to earlier conversation, like maybe the cap isn't recyclable, so there's ultimately going to be something else that needs to be trashed. The bottle, yes, I can recycle. There's just other pieces of like, what else are you adding to this, like, I guess, trashing or recycling stream here. Whereas there's other refill options, and I think you can speak to this, Rose, where it's not, you don't need to buy something new to get more of that product.
Right. So you're referring to actual refill stores.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so like to loop back to the refillability thing. So thinking through the logistics of like that refill option. So again, as I said, like how much more waste are you producing if you're buying another refill thing? And then like, are the vessels recyclable? Are they wrapped in plastic? Is there another box to recycle? Like all the different things, like how did it get to you? Was it like shipped from who knows where? Like how long did it take to get to for that refill? Things like that. And then like, if you love and respect the brand, if you're already like a loyal consumer for it, then like the refill system might be a smart choice, because if you're ultimately going to be spending, buying that brand again and again and again, like, yes, you may still be producing waste, but like, okay, but if you love that brand, at least you're producing a little bit less waste, like
right.
So in that sense, like it's a plus, but generally be cautious, because often there's like, it's just another ploy to like get you to spend more money, and you're not actually reducing waste,
right?
And at times maybe even producing more waste.
Yeah, it's a way for these companies to lock you in as a loyal consumer, because if you buy their initial product and one of their refill products, then you can keep buying the refills they produce.
Yeah.
So we've covered the 6 major strategies that companies use to greenwash and pull the wool over our eyes. But now let's focus on the consumer, and let's talk about ways that we can avoid greenwashing. So one of the first strategies we can do is we can read the product labels and ingredients. So going back to that first or second point, don't just take what you see on the front of the package at face value. Spend some time, look for those third-party verified labels, look for those buzzwords, and if you see them, that's probably a greenwashed product, and do a little bit of research. One example I can share is that, so I follow a plant-based diet, and when you see plant-based on a product, I learned it doesn't necessarily mean that it's free from dairy, eggs, and meat. You'd think it would be. Plant-based is like the new big up-and-coming thing, right? Where people who eat fruits, veggies, non-animal products. And my husband and I purchased this plant-based food product, okay? We didn't even think twice about it. We're like, it's plant-based, cool. We bring it home, we read the back of the container, and it says it contains dairy and eggs. And I was like, that's not plant-based? Yeah. Like, maybe the company was just confused. Maybe they were like, well, the cow and the chicken eat plants, so it's plant-based. Sounds like they use
one of those
like a fake label or something. They might have, but I was like, and I don't see this very often. So like, you generally can trust products that say plant-based, but it was just like so weird to me to see that. So like, again, actually look at the back of things, look for those labels.
Yeah, a piece of that, just as it relates to like fashion again, is you're looking at your clothing labels, looking for the ingredients there, because there's still ingredients in in your product. So like, if it's all polyester, which is essentially like microplastics, right? That just ultimately may not be the most sustainable product choice or ingredient for your clothes. Yeah. So I'll be looking for like that, like organic cotton or recycled this, recycled that. But again, still being mindful of those. That fine print, as well as the certifications, which again, just as a reminder for a good certification to look out for is B-Corp. So I don't think we mentioned it earlier in our like sort of food and other label certifications, but B-Corp is another certification that sort of adds more weight to a brand's sustainability claims. So these brands go through a sustainability and like risk assessments for their product, factories, work, all of those things put together, and like they have to go through all these like hoops and requirements to prove that the company is actually like taking action. And so that can look different for every company, but there's this third-party verification system going in and saying, can you show us how you're reducing your packaging, and like can you show us how you're reducing your carbon footprint with your new system of delivery, like whatever it is, they have to show and validate that this is happening, and that B Corp certification is a way to be like, oh, this company is actually doing something about their product and their company's sustainability goals.
Right. What I like about B Corp is it's kind of like a blanketing, like comprehensive sustainability certification. And let's say you're overwhelmed by all the certifications we talked about previously, USDA organic, non-GMO, the leaping bunny. If that overwhelms you, you could also just look for B Corp certification, and that will guarantee that they check many boxes in the sustainability category.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another strategy we can use when we're shopping is to try to determine how traceable a product is. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to be purchasing clothing, we should be able to know where the cotton was grown, where it was assembled, which country or which location, and then where it was packaged and sent to us. We want to be able to trace that product so we can understand, did it go between 5 different countries before it got to my home? And then same thing for food products. Like, is this chocolate fair trade certified? If it is, what farm did it come from? Which country? And, we're not seeing traceability on all products, but if you're not really able to determine where your product was even just manufactured or where it's from, there is probably something shady going on. Because my thought is, if you're a company and you have put in the effort to make your supply chain super transparent, every single step of the way is sustainable, you're going to want to broadcast that on your website and show your consumers, hey, we have spent the time, we've spent the money cleaning up the supply chain. Here's every single step that our product goes through. That's what I would think in my mind. I wouldn't think these companies would just keep that a secret if there truly is nothing fishy going on.
Yeah, I'm totally spacing on the company or nonprofit that does this kind of work, but there's a company I follow on Instagram who essentially does like rates companies based on like sustainability, but like one of their pillars is traceability. And it's like, so yes, they're doing this, yes, their workers are this, and all the different pieces, and then maybe there's zero like backing up of that claim on their website. So it's like, it seems like a really good company, but we have no data to prove that they're actually doing the things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. So things like that. Because if there's no traceability, then like, first, if you can't if it's not visible on the packaging, so that's the first red flag. Okay, there's nothing here that's really like, how are they where did they get their recycled material? How are they recycling? Right. Whatever it is. Then jumping to like if you're gonna dig deeper, checking out the website, and if there's not a clear like sustainability like drop down or something on their website, like again, if they are actually doing this kind of work, they're gonna want to highlight that. Yeah. And if they're not, they should be proud of it. Then if you have to dig onto their website only to find that like there's really like no sustainability claims actually there, then it's
big red flag.
So that kind of just ties into strategy 4, which is like when you're research the company. That's a tactic to kind of like combat greenwashing. So if it's not clear on the label, but maybe you're still really interested in the product, check out their website. So looking at those like certifications on the website, looking up if there's a sustainability page, all the different data that they're gonna back for their claims. And then also like consider funders or parent companies. Like if you're really against a particular, I don't know, whether it's like big oil or like, some of those like big sustainability pieces that come into play in the greater picture here, like, oh, their funder is this funder who is also like the main funder for this thing. Like if they're all tied together, it may make you less likely to trust or buy that product if you're not, where the bulk of their money is going. It's not something that's sustainable or eco-friendly.
So we are at the end of the episode here, and just one piece of advice that I want to leave our listeners with is probably everything we talked about today has been very overwhelming. Greenwashing is overwhelming. I'm still overwhelmed by it with all the research I end up doing on these brands so I can make sustainable choices. But what I want to leave you with is just try your best and do what you can. You don't have to be a perfect consumer. If it truly is, you just choose one product in your house. Maybe it's your shampoo, and you're like, I'm going to make sure I buy a third-party verified product that has a label on it. Go ahead and do that. Like choose that one product, or maybe keep that list of certified labels on your phone when you go shopping. Or maybe, take a closer look at companies that claim to have recyclable clothing, things like that. Just do what you can, and you will be making a difference no matter how small your actions are. And with that, I think we can wrap up. Kim, thank you so much for being on the show today. You were such an enjoyable guest. I loved our conversation. You had so many valuable examples to share.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really grateful just for the opportunity to share my ideas and thoughts. And I'll just reinforce you start small, and suddenly you'll see that you're making a lot of great change for yourself, your family, and hopefully holding those larger companies accountable as well.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thank you for listening to Sustainable Sun Prairie with your host, Rose Daly. I hope you enjoyed this episode and uncovered something new about sustainability. As always, you can subscribe to our podcast and listen anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and you can listen live on 103.5 FM The Sun, WLSP-LP, and on demand on the Sun Prairie Media Center app. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as our contact info, please visit the show notes. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.